progress. Sangye chodan soge chonam la chanchu patu dane kyatso che dagi jinso kipe chonam ge dola penche sangye duba sho sangye chodan soge chonam chanchu patu dane kyatso che dagi jinso kipe chonam ge dola penche sangye duba sho Sangye chodan soge sonam la chanju patu dane kapso che dagi jinso gibe sonam ge dola penche sangye duba. So so the topic of today and tomorrow evening is a very short sutra. um, is sutra called Mahayana Sutra of um, Arya wisdom at the time of death.
Oui, le sutra, il n'est pas dans le livre. Il était associé au programme d'en savoir plus. Vous allez cliquer dessus, puis vous l'aurez trouvé. Et puis, je peux le partager là, si vous voulez. Oui, je vais le mettre sur l'écran.
Je l'ai mis dans le chat.
Oui, dans le chat aujourd'hui, il est aussi. Sorry, Geshe, it's just for the text.
Okay.
Yes.
So I should thank John Paul for asking me to that because I didn't know about the sutra. So I didn't. So I was introduced to new sutra, and I think John Paul was introduced by Venerable Anil Sanla. So again, and it the topic of the sutras seems a little bit like the practice at the power at the time of death. I think Kadamba's Lojong practice, they are what to do at the time of death, the 5 practices known as the 5 power. So again, this sutra was given at Agasnista, Ogmin, Tume Kubushu, one of the Buddha's Pure Land, and it is mentioned, when someone achieves fully enlightenment for the first time, is a place where they achieve. In some, in many commentaries, it is explained this particular, and so, and then in terms of the sutra was asked by the Akashgarbha, Bodhisattva Akashgarbha. So again, normally you find 8 bodhisattvas, very well-known 8 bodhisattvas, as a entourage around the Buddhas, and Akashgarbha was one of those 8 bodhisattvas. And other Akashgarbha is mentioned, that he had made a strong uh, aspirations, to liberate those sentient beings, especially who have very little virtue seed and who have um, the fear of transgrading the the downfalls and the precepts. And so so to, so again, so that is the one who asked the questions is that um, Bodhisattva Agashgarbha. And then the question asked, as you can see in Sutra, is how should the Bodhisattvas cultivate the wisdom at the time of the death? What they practice the Bodhisattva at the hour of the death or at the time of death. Um, so that was the main, and then Buddha give answers, mainly um, four practices to reflect, to contemplate at the time of death. Mm. So four of those practices that is to contemplate it, meditate it, and cultivate the wisdom at the time of death is, meditation on emptiness. And here Buddha explains, since all phenomena are, empty of inherent existence, therefore one should, at the time of death, one should try to meditate on uh, the nature of emptiness. Mm. Again, is kind of similar, like in the Heart Sutras, Dhammakata Sutras, all one should try to see and contemplate and meditate and see all phenomena as emptiness or empty because they all are empty of inherent existence. And all phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they are dependent on other conditions, other factors. Something that is dependent on other conditions, other factors cannot be able to exist by itself or by its own side. If something exists by its own side, that means it is able to exist without depending on other side. That means by able to exist by without depending on other conditions, other factors. But if something to exist depend on other factors, other conditions, then that is clear sign is unable to exist by itself. It is unable to exist by itself. And therefore, and Buddha explained in another sutta, whatever is dependent on other condition, whatever is produced by depending on other condition is not produced. So not produced, why? It cannot produce by itself. Is empty of producing by itself or from its own side. Why is that? Why is that it's empty of producing by itself or from its own side? because in order that to produce, it depends on other factors, other conditions. And since everything is dependent arisings, all phenomena dependent arisings, because all phenomena depend on other conditions, other factors to be able to produce, to be able to exist. Therefore, all phenomena are unable to exist by itself from its own side. Therefore, they are empty of existing inherently, existing by itself, by its own side. Therefore, they all are, one should see all of them as empty and meditate on emptiness. Through by seeing and meditating on emptiness, then one should cultivate the wisdom realizing the emptiness at the time of death. And if one is able to die with that understanding, by being able to recollect, remember the emptiness, by being able to reflect, contemplate, and see emptiness at time of death, then one will be able to die without fear, without worry, without grasping, without attachments. So if one is able to die without such, grasping, fear, worry, you know, anxieties, attachment and so forth, then you don't have to worry about the future. What might happen, what might not happen, you know, regardless of what you believe in or not believe in, regardless whether you believe in there's something after the life or you don't believe anything after the life, regardless of that, you will be able to die calm, peacefully. A lot of time, people are unable to die calm, peacefully because sometimes, you believe you might be going to hell realms. So there's fear of that. Or you believe, you might be going to one of the lower realms. There is fear of that. Or if you don't believe in any future life, there's a fear that you will be permanently gone, separate from everything. There's nothing left after that. So again, a lot of people have fear of that. They don't want to be nothing, because we have so much grasping and we identify so strongly at the moment. So there is this idea of that becoming nothing at that time can produce a lot of fear. So regardless of all of that, regardless what your beliefs are, believe, no belief, whatever, one will be able to die peacefully, calm, if we are able to really reflect, contemplate, and see emptiness. If you are able to see that, then there's no grasping, and then the self-grasping, and then when there's no more self-grasping, in that moment, then absolutely the fear arises because of that self-grasping. The fear, worry, anxiety, whatever, you know. Mm. As a Buddhist, maybe we might be able to cut, if we are able to die with that wisdom, cultivating wisdom, realizing the emptiness, to cut the root of samsara and to cut continuous samsara rebirth. If not, at least to have a better rebirth within the samsara, you know, um, better conditions, better um, experience, better situation, better conditions within the samsara, where we can continue to work with our mind and practice and that, So at the moment, due to not understanding that, you know, due to a lot of imprint from the past, the imprint of the ignorance, which is so strongly embedded in us because of not understanding, everything that we see, everything we hear, everything we smell, everything we taste, everything we touch, things that come in our mind, everything's appear, you know, existing by itself, existing from its own side. Truly, real. Not only there's appearance, then our mind perceive the things to exist the way the appearance is. If we don't believe the appearance, if we don't perceive same way the appearance, then it wouldn't be a big problem. The big problem is not only there's appearance, then you believe the appearance. Our mind perceive exactly as the way appears, how the objects exist, just as the way the appearance is, and that is the biggest problem, and that's where grasping comes. On the basis of grasping, then attachment, anger, jealousy, pride, all the other negative emotion, fear, worry, everything arises, and that is how we suffer. So in order to destroy that kind of ignorance that is so strong, that is so strong embedded, it is not going to, we are not going to be able to destroy that meditation one time, one day, you know, even we are able to meditate correctly, you know, by one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, you know, it might require many, many years, sometimes many lifetimes, you know, and that is why in the Heart Sutra, where it says, correctly and repeatedly again and again, that you need to contemplate, meditate, even after you have correct understanding of that, Of course, in order to have correct understanding, first you need to study, learn. But even if you have correct understanding, first intellectually, then experientially. But even that you have correct understanding and experientially, still one need to continue to, contemplate, meditate again and again and again, in order to really, destroy and eliminate that ignorance, completely. Mm? And in order to be able to meditate, contemplate, and recollect the emptiness at the time of death, one should really reflect, contemplate, meditate while we are still alive or earlier, you know. If we don't meditate when we are still healthy and when we are not dying, we don't meditate, contemplate, and then at the time of death, someone try to remind you or meditate on emptiness, it will be extremely difficult. Even when our mind is strong, when our memory is strong, when our mind is able to think properly, correctly, it might not be so easy. So imagine when you are dying, your body, your mind is weak. Your mind is not as alert like now. Our memory is not as strong at that moment. And so, therefore, it will be difficult. Even someone remind you to do that. But if someone has practiced now all the time a lot, then their mind is familiar with that practice, that meditations. And because they are familiar with that, then it requires less effort. And because it requires less effort, even when your mind is weak, even your body is weak, still one will be able to do that because it doesn't require a lot of effort to do that because of familiarity. Mm. If you are not familiar at the time, you try to, lead someone through such meditation, they might be even more confused. Their mind is already in confusions at the time of death, to a certain level, for many, um, your elements are, your body elements are, dissolving, unbalanced. Things are happening that are not happening before. You are starting to have different visions that you are not used to, and so you don't know what is happening unless you have trained well, you know. And so your mind started a little confused, not understanding what is happening, why it is happening, what that, you know. So all this confusion and on top of that, something complicated like a emptiness meditations, you know, might even make more complicating. But someone who has studied, meditated, contemplated while they're still alive, long time, then, for them, it will be easy to recollect themselves, remember themselves, and even they cannot remember someone to just remind them, you know, because you can forget it, because your short memory, you might forget it, but then someone remind you, and when they are reminding you, you might be able to remember for a short period. Again, someone remind you, and you can, you know, and then if you are able to die with that kind of mind, then one doesn't have to, you know, worry and be fearful. Nothing to worry, nothing to be fearful of. Mm. Of course, there are many. So that is why we need to, you know, meditate, contemplate on emptiness as much as you can with different reasoning logics. You know, whatever reason logic make more sense to you, more effective to you. As we when you study, um, you know, whether you are studying Lamrim, whether you are studying some of those commentaries by Nagarjuna, Chandrakiri, Shantideva, Arya, they were all those great Indian masters. There are so many different reason and logic they use to understand the same subjects, the emptiness. But certain reason and logics are more effective for certain peoples. And certain reason and logic, some people, they might not, they might struggle to find um, how it how how it really they might find difficult to relate with that unless they have some better understanding of the tenets, different tenets, and how that reason and logics is you know um, works, you know and so again, but certain other reason logic one might find more effective, more easy to relate, and whatever is easy for oneself, you know. But having many reason logic resource is much more helpful. For example, even in our ordinary world, you might see certain research that says the research showed this and this, and you might be 100% not convinced with that research. Different researchers, the more research have been done by different others, groups, organization, and when all of this research shows same result, then you will have confidence in that findings. The more the more evidence there are, the more convinced you become in terms of that finding. Even though the finding might be correct, but if there is only one, you might still not be 100% convinced, you know. In terms of the finding is not incorrect, it's the correct finding. But because at the moment there's only one research done, there's only one evidence. So sometimes our mind might not be so confident in that finding. But when more and more research and more evidence shows it's the same finding, the more confidence you get in that finding. That is how same here. That's why we use so many reason and logic. Why not just keep on just one reason? You know, sometimes we might say, why we have to study all these so many different reason and logics? Just keep one reason, you know, and why not rely on that? But that is the difference it makes. Someone who have studied a lot and who have all this access of different reason logics, and someone who have only one reasons, even you are not convinced, but you don't have other resource to convince you that conclusions, that findings, But when you have so many reasons and all of those same different reason logic, but it all lead to the same conclusions. All these different reason and logics, all these different analysis, all these different examinations. Something's happening here, emptiness. Yeah, emptiness. Yeah. What is that?
We have to clean our mind.
Maybe
there is some mise à jour.
Jesus.
Okay. Yes. That's it.
So then, yeah, that is where the more you learn those different reason and logics, and then you have more resource, more reasoning, and then it gives you more confidence. And if one of those reason cannot convince you, you use other reason, examination, analysis. To do different analysis, whatever different analysis you use, then the main thing is leading to the same understanding, how everything is empty of inherent existence, how everything is empty of existence by itself, its own side. And when you have that strong, leading to that strong convictions that is absolutely empty of existing its own side by itself, you know, then, you try to keep your mind in that, holding or meditating on that emptiness without distractions, without laxity, dullness, as long as possible, you know. And so that is what we try to combine analytical meditation and non-analytical meditations. You do the analytical meditation to lead to that conclusions, that conviction, that understanding. And once you come to that understanding, then you try to do non-analytical meditations on holding holding on the in this case the emptiness that you have come to conclude it after the analysis, and so um, that is what one can try to, uh, and then when resting in that emptiness, or you know meditating that emptiness, you know um, holding that emptiness, whatever you put, when that become you know weaker and weaker, not strong feeling as before, then again you do the analyze again and again, come to same. um, we have strong grasping, you know because our mind believe, or we believe, and our mind perceive the object to be absolute. you know if we see something beautiful, attractive, desirable, nice, then our mind perceive and believe is absolute beauty, absolute desirable, absolute nice, absolute good, you know, absolute attractive. On the basis of that, then there's strong, you know, attachment, wanting that objects, you know. On the other hand, when there is a appearance of something undesirable, unattractive, something unpleasant, not nice, something bad. Again, not only there's appearance of that, there's absolute badness, absolute not nice, absolute, you know, unpleasant, undesirable. And not only there's appearance of that, then our mind also perceive that object is absolutely undesirable, absolute not nice, absolute, bad, you know, unpleasant, and so forth. On the basis of that, then we have strong disliking towards that object, strong aversions, and anger arises. And again, if we check our mind, if we observe our mind, you can check yourself and see whether that is the case or not. You know, even though that is appearance and that is how our mind perceives, but if we really analyze, when you don't analyze, that is what it appears, or what is how our mind perceives to exist. But if we really analyze with the wisdom, analyzing mind, you know, does things exist? Does the objects, does the phenomena exist absolutely as it appear to our mind and as our mind perceive to exist? Then again, it becomes clear that they do not exist absolutely. Because if something undesirable, unattractive, you know, something not nice, it exists as absolutely as appear to our mind and as our mind perceived it, then it should be undesired for everyone. It should be undesirable for everyone, you know, unattractive to everyone, regardless whoever, anyone who come in contact with that object phenomena. It should be same to everyone because it's absolute, you know. It should be undesirable for everyone, unattractive, not nice, bad. And same, if it's something desirable, if you know, nice, attractive, positive, good, you know, if they exist absolutely, again, everyone who come in contact, who experience those object phenomena, it should be, you know, nice, desirable, whatever that qualities, should be same for everyone. But not that is not the case if we really analyze. The object someone find very desirable, another person find not so desirable, another person find very undesirable. Even among people who find desirable, there can be many different levels of desirable. Even among those who find undesirable, there are many different levels of undesirable. They are not insane. But if something exists undesirable, absolutely, then that should be what it is for same to everyone equally. So if that is not the case, what does it show? It's not absolute. It's just relative. You know, relative. You know, depending on many conditions. You know, someone is desirable because they are conditioned by many things. You know, their mind is conditioned by many things. Maybe their cultures, maybe their educations, maybe things that is happening in that time, some kind of fashions that changes time to time. At a certain time, that fashion is desirable. Another time, that fashion is not desirable anymore. So time, uh, time can condition that. Your culture can condition that. Your upbringing can condition. So many different conditions for someone to see as desirable or not desirable. Many different conditions can play a role to see someone, same objects for someone to see as desirable and for someone to see as undesirable. So therefore, it becomes clear then it's not absolute, it's a relative. It depends on who see that, you know, who experience that objects, that phenomena, and what kind of conditions, what different condition their mind to be seeing something desirable, undesirable, good, bad, nice, not nice, you know, respectful, disrespectful, all of that, you know, in certain cultures, at certain time, something is respectful in certain cultures, certain time it becomes disrespectful. At certain time, in certain condition, in certain place, um, certain disrespectful, in another it become respectful. So-called respectful behavior, disrespectful behavior is better conditions, better relative. There's nothing absolute, you know. But the problem is we believe it's absolute, and how can you be so disrespectful? You know, we don't have this flexibility. That action could be respectful, disrespectful, or due to many conditions, depending on cultures, depending on um, your definitions of that, depending on the motivations, many things playing a role. But a lot of time we don't see this, all this, that. We see you are so disrespectful to me or to someone, and we get very upset and angry. But someone who can understand so-called respectful, disrespectful, attractive, unattractive, all of that, not absolute, is relative, which is conditions by different, it can be different by different conditions. Then their mind become more flexible, not so rigid. Their mind become flexible and not so rigid, narrow, fixed. When you believe in absolute, then you become very fixed, rigid, because that is the only thing that can be happen. When you believe in absolute, there's no possibility, regardless of what condition it is bad, is good, is respectful, is absolute respectful, is disrespectful, absolute disrespectful, is desirable, is absolute desirable, is undesirable, absolute undesirable. So doesn't matter who looks at that, doesn't matter what conditions, doesn't matter what cultures, what time, all of that. And so therefore your mind becomes very fixed, very rigid, very narrow. And when your mind becomes very fixed, rigid, narrow, then that's our problem start because of that. Not because of our differences. Sometimes we think the problem is because we have different view, different opinion, different ideas. It is that fixed ideas, this our mind being so fixed, so rigid, that becomes the problem. Someone who is not, who understand, non-absolute, and where everything is relative. Even though you might believe in something, even though you think this is good, bad, this is respectful, disrespectful, this is desirable, this is undesirable, you have your own opinion, your own view, your own idea on that, but your mind is not so fixed. You can see this is desired for me, but this doesn't have to be desired for everyone. This could be undesired for someone else. You know? So you wouldn't get so upset if someone doesn't agree with your opinions. You wouldn't be so offended and upset and angry just because someone has different views, ideas. But when we are fixed, then uh, it makes much more difficult to be flexible of others' difference than yours. I don't know what was that. There's English saying. I don't know. I don't know who said that. That the beauty, the beauty lies in not in the eyes of the beholder. What is that called? That sounds like emptiness. Relative. Yeah. Whoever said it, that maybe he or she has a little understanding of relative. I don't know, but that is what it is. It's more into the from which side, from which point of view, from whom it sees. You know. But if something is absolute, then it doesn't matter from what point of view you see it. It doesn't matter. It's absolute. It should be that, no matter from which side you look. So when we analyze, then it is quite clear. It's not absolute. You know, when you don't analyze, then it feels like it's so, so real, so absolute. It's like, you know, you get some misinformations about someone or something, and you have been bombarded with that misinformation day by day, week by week, year by years, month by month, year, and then you started to believe this is the reality. And then someone come with all the evidence, you know, this is not the reality what you believe. Here are all the evidence. You would not be able to let it go easily, you know. That is what happens when people, you sometimes with how can they be so stupid, you know, to believe that mis or disinformations, and some of those people are very, very smart people, highly educated. And you believe, how can they, the evidence are so clear, how can they not believe that? How can they not answer? Because the information sources that they have been relying on for over the years, that is what all this information said to them. You know, that is because they rely on certain information sources, and they have been saying that over the so long, and that is in their so then they start believe that, and even now they have all other sources. It's hard then to let it go, and that is what in our mind, this ignorance has given us this misinformations, disinformation for life after life, so many. And even when we do analyze and it is not true, but still our ignorance still believe that, strongly grasp. You know, when you analyze this and you can see, oh, it's not existing from its own side by itself because it's dependent arising. You can see they are dependent arising, therefore is not inherently existing, you know. And when you analyze, you can see it's not absolute existence because you can see it's a relative depending on who sees that from what perspective, from what angles that you see it. It's not same for everyone's. But still, in our everyday experience, still the grasping is so strong. Still, this perceiving the object to exist truly inherently. To penetrate that ignorance, it requires, that is why meditation repeatedly again and again. One meditation does not, you know. And so that is, so again, meditating on that, how things are not absolute because, they are relative, and because they are relative, because they are, again, conditioned by others, so therefore, whether it's attractive or not attractive, desirable, not desirable, does not come from his own side or absolutely, you know, depending on the persons. For someone is desirable, for someone is undesirable, for someone is in between, for someone is nice, for someone is not nice, for someone is between, you know. And all of those people are not kind of, you know, all those people are, with a, it's not that some of them are kind of mentally disturbed, and that all are mentally stable and they all are right in their own way, correct, you know. But each people can see differently, experience differently, you know. So what does that show is a clear sign of relative and nothing absolute. So this is something we have to remind again and again all the time through such practice and meditations, you know. Uh, so by meditating with those different kind of analysis and reasoning, logics, and different analysis, then we try to come to understand how everything is, all phenomena are empty of existing absolutely, inherently, existing from its own side by itself, and therefore they are totally, you know, empty, and trying to meditate on that empty. And when you try to, with such analysis, and then when you meditate on that emptiness, mere absence of inherent existence, or absolute existence, you know, then there's no object to hold on. And when there's no object to hold on, there's no more grasping, you know. And then when there's no grasping, then as I mentioned before, all other negative emotion that arises based on that grasping also subside, diminish. So that is one of uh, the Buddha advice to the Bodhisattvas to develop that wisdom, meditating on emptiness in that way, to contemplate, meditate at the time of death. And as mentioned, to be able to do it at the time of death, then we have to do now. So at the time of death, we might be able to do it ourselves because we are familiar, but even somehow our mind, our memories started to not remember it so much at that time, or our mind is very weak, confused. Again, with someone help to remind you, then you might be able to do it. You will be able to do it. And that is one thing I have noticed. Some people and practitioners, later they have dementia, and they forget things. But something they have practiced and done so much in the past, those memory, they still have access to that. They don't have access to the immediate memories. They ask the same questions again and again, even after. But then you ask about something past one, they can explain so clearly as though you wouldn't know that their memory was so bad. I've seen even with the monks, not many, but a couple of them, definitely their present memory was it one, not sometime able to recognize the other monks, sometimes not being able to recognize, like, and then keep asking same question repeatedly. But when you talk about Dharma, philosophy, something, so clear, you wouldn't know that they have that problem. And so that is, I think, that is so familiar that you are almost like embedded with that in your mind, and because it's so embedded in your mind. so clearly, so one doesn't seem to forget easily, even in that. So again, someone remind you that, and then again, you might be able to follow it. You remember that and follow it, you know. Even if they don't remember, you can guide them and they should be able to follow it easily because it's something they are more familiar. And as I mentioned, without less effort with the familiarity. So that the other, I don't know, the other is the advice to meditate at the time of death on compassion, great compassion. You know, since all the phenomena, all the dharma kind of, can be summarized into the bodhicitta, mind, and, as is mentioned, the essence of, you know, churning the milk is the butter, you know. Same way among all the teachings and all the practice, the very essence of all of them is the bodhicitta mind. Even though there are so many different practice, so many teachings, so many different practice, but the essence, you know, in Bodhisattva path, the essence of all of that, it all come to the bodhicitta mind. You know, what make the bodhisattvas, unique from the arhat is that bodhicitta mind, not the wisdom and nor the moral discipline practice, nor the shamatha, nor the wisdom. Even the arhat or those who are on the path to arhat, even they have the incredible moral discipline practice, shamatha and wisdom, and incredible renunciation, all of that. But what makes Bodhisattva unique is that Bodhicitta mind, you know. And so therefore, that is the essence of the order. Um, and therefore, again, it encouraged to practice at the time of death the compassions, the Bodhicitta mind, the compassion mind. Um, Again, if you can die by thinking or reflecting, contemplating, meditating on compassion, bodhicitta mind, again, there's nothing to be, again, fearful, wary, you know. You don't have to, if someone die with that, you don't have to worry whether your teacher will be there to pray for you or not. You don't have to worry whether there will be, you know, pujas done for you or not. You don't have to worry whether there will be monks, nuns, or other people doing prayer for you or not. You know, you can die. You have prepared yourself without relying on others. You know, sometimes His Holiness says, there is a sections of prayer from the Guru Puja, where it says, of course, in that refers to Guru. You are the Guru, you are the Yidam, you are the Buddha, you are the Daga, you are the Daga Dakinis, you are the hero, heroine, you are the protectors, everything's, you know. And as His Holiness says, the bodhicitta, the compassion is that. The guru become all of that because of that true bodhicitta and compassion. If without it, that, if guru doesn't have that bodhicitta and compassion, then that wouldn't be all of that. What makes it that is that, and so therefore that wisdom realizing emptiness and the compassion bodhicitta is the true dharma. Is that really protect you? That's the true dharma. That is the one really protect oneself. Your own wisdom mind and your own compassions. Is that can really protect you from all these, negative feelings, emotions, uh, negative karmas, and unfortunate lower rebirth and all of that. Mm. And so there's nothing better way to die than to be able to reflect, contemplate on compassions, Again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, same like the previous one, regardless of what you believe, not believe, if you are able to die with compassion, you don't have to be worried about it at all, So yeah, I think again, same. In order to be able to reflect, contemplate, and meditate, and to be able to die with compassion, then again, it requires practice while we are still alive. While we are still alive, if we don't practice, meditate, contemplate, and practice, then it will be much more harder to do that at the time of death. But if you have done that before, then at the time of death, you will be able to do it easily. You will be able to remember easily. And even if you cannot remember, someone try to help you to remind, and then you will be able to do that. So in that, then it is similar, in the Kadamba Lojong practice, um, the five powers at the time of death, is practicing the two bodhicitta mind. That is the main one, ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta mind. Familiarize the power of the familiarizings, and then when you have familiarized with that, then at the time of death, to be able to remember that, and to be able to die with either of those bodhicitta mind, and if you are able to die with those bodhicitta mind, then that's the best power. That's the best conscious transparence of power, as Gautama Master says. Other powers, not 100% sure. This power, 100% sure. So yeah, I think that's all for today. I can take a couple of questions. Yes, please.
J'ai bien compris ce qui a été expliqué. I understood what was explained. Par contre, je peine un peu, c'est qu'il y a tellement de conseils donnés pour ce qu'on est censé faire au moment de la mort. Advices given to what to do at the time of death. Par exemple, méditer sur la vacuité, méditer sur la compassion, essayer de reconnaître la claire lumière. Au final, moi, je sais plus ce que je dois faire. Meditation on the emptiness, compassion, or the clear light. At the end, I don't know what to do.
Sorry. You try one day this chocolate, and the next day the other chocolate, and the next day the other chocolates. Did you understand?
No.
No? Oh, is more complicated than the emptiness. No, no. I think those are some of the. Of course, if you can apply all this at the same time, that would be wonderful. But again, throughout the life, whatever your practice is more strong, compassion, bodhicitta. If you are strong in those, you can practice both of them at the time of that. That wouldn't be complicating. There is no, you know, there wouldn't be any contradictions or struggles. Someone who is really good at those meditations at that time. But like for someone, you know, um, if you are so confused what to meditate on, then again, while you are still alive, whatever practice is more strong, that can be the one. So at the time of death, that will be more easy because one particular strong practice, whatever is strong, you know, um, it could be compassion, it could be emptiness, it could be clear light, it could be remember impermanence, it could be refuge, any of the whatever the practitioner is very strong about that particular practice. It could be just strong devotions, to Guru, to deity, to Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Of course, if we could die with bodhicitta mind or loving kindness and compassion or meditating on emptiness, that will be even greater. But it doesn't mean that, this is the only. These are some of the, you can say, some of the different meditations or practice you can do and remember at the time of death. It doesn't mean you have to remember everything, all of that, this all, that you have to do that, for more advanced contemplative practices, they might do clear light meditations. For some, maybe they do bodhicitta or compassion. For some, it could be the emptiness, or for some, even they find difficult with that, it could be the refuge. Yeah. And some, it can, um, if you have a very strong practice, a very simple practice, maybe it might not be so, um, you know, yeah, maybe. When my father died, he died, he fall down and then he was already 91, 92, and he broke his, feet. So there was no option than surgery, even though it was risky surgery, which doctor also mentioned that it's a risky. But if he doesn't do the surgery, then he's not going to heal that. It's broken, you know. Um, so they did surgery, and then the surgery itself went okay, but he couldn't recover from that. After 14 days, he passed away. You know, um, and of course I wasn't there. Um, One of the morning when my brothers checked his, oxygen level, it was low, so he started to drive immediately to the hospital, and he died in the while they were on the way to hospital. And on the backside, my father and caretaker was there, and then and my brother says, he was keep on asking the caretaker how he's doing and what he's doing, and he was reciting mantras, prayers. And after some time again, he asked, what was he doing, how is he doing, and he said he fell asleep. But that is when he passed away. while he was doing his prayer, mantra, whatever that he was doing, So by the time they reach hospital, they say he's gone, you know. Um, so anyway, at that time, Rinpoche was in Kopan. One of my other teachers, Teacher Rinpoche, was also in Kopan, After I heard my father, I went, and then, I went and asked prayer for my father to Rinpoche and Teacher Rinpoche, and they asked what happened, how he died, and explained. And Rinpoche mentioned, "Oh, I don't have to. Your father doesn't need my prayers. He had prepared himself very well, you know." But again, it was his faith, devotions to the deity, Guru, whatever he was thinking of, and that prayer. And also Tisu Rinpoche, when I asked his prayer, and he said, and again he asked me how he died or what happened, and then I mentioned, he said, "Oh, there's nothing more better than to die that way." This is prayer that we also inspire and wish and pray to be able to die by thinking of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, by thinking of the Guru with that kind of faith and devotion. That is something. And that is something we pray for, that is something we inspire for, and he have died for in that way. Nothing to worry about it. And so again, that is where I say, the practice can be clear light meditation, practice can be compassion, can be emptiness, or can be very simple practice, the faith, refuge, or devotion to Guru, whatever that, or different meditation. Someone who is very strong, someone has very strong practice, and then, I think that is the key. If you don't have any practice, any strong practice, that is where we will have struggles. Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? What should your mind can go here and there and not being able to make a decisions unless someone help you guide, But someone has strong practice, then that is what they focus on, whatever practice that they have been doing in their life, which they have familiarity and easy to do that. And so, yeah. You had questions? No, you don't have to. Yes, please, Anila. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about the analytical meditation on emptiness. That once you have arrived at the conclusion about emptiness, then you do non-analytical meditation. So it means like you rest with the understanding you have. But how do you really do that? Like, no. Because when I arrive to the conclusion, then I'm like, okay, so it's like this. Like, how do you really...
So with that kind of different reason, logic, whatever you do, then you say you cannot find. And when you cannot find, then it comes to that is totally empty of inherent existing or truly existing. And then there is sense of emptiness, You cannot find and totally empty of that object or that phenomena. And holding that emptiness, that strong feeling of empty spaces, So that feeling of very empty, that very strong empty of through that analysis of that truly existing emptiness or whatever inherently existing, whatever that, the strong sense of feeling really is totally empty of that. And so holding that feeling of empty very strongly until it becomes weak. And then again you do the analyze and come to that and really feeling, before you feel it's not empty, before you feel there's really truly existing or absolutely existing infinite existing objects. But through that analysis, you come to a conclusion is totally empty of that objects or totally empty of that, and then strong feeling of totally empty, and then holding on that empty feeling of that emptiness. Yeah. Yes, please.
Maybe it's a bit like some kind of acceptance, like in the physical world, when you lose something and you try to find it and you look like 10 times in the same place. You know it's not there, but still you go back to that place. And then the moment comes when you accept and you say, okay, it's not there, and you stop looking. A little bit like this. Some kind of acceptance that, yeah, I can't find it. I'm not saying I realized it, okay? But I realized it with physical stuff. Kind of when I finally, even I haven't found it, but I finally stopped looking for it because I know it's not there. So I think maybe it's a little bit like that.
Yes, of course, Lama Tsongkhapa explained the twofold of overlooking too much and not looking enough, those things. And when we overlooking, then we might not be able to establish relative existence. That is another problem. Yes.
It's what I said before. You explained that everything is relative and over time, and so depending on the consciousness of the one who is analyzing. So this I understand quite good mentally. Then at one point I'm questioning myself in a matter of ethic. Then when can we say that something is good and something is bad? Because we cannot take this really literally. If not, we cannot have laws or ethics. So how can we manage something?
Yes. Well, in a certain society, in a certain place, the majority of the people, they decide what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, what is ethic, what is non-ethic, and on the basis of that, then there is a law, and then whether you agree with fully or not, you follow that. That's the law. But at the same time, you wouldn't have so fixed idea like we have at the moment. So someone may break a law, the law that has created on the basis of people who are supposed expert in that, and the majority of who are expert in that decided to create this law and make this law, and that. But when someone break those law, when we have a strong fixed ideas, then when someone break law, we can be very upset and angry with that. If someone is not very fixed in that, you might not feel so upset and angry. You might say, oh, he or she broke law, whatever law of the country, law of the world, whatever that, but you wouldn't be so agitated, so upset, and that kind of upset actually because there's belief that is absolute law, and because it's relative, it's created by certain people who have certain knowledge in that area and based on majority, whatever that, and which everyone has to follow and that, try to follow. But in terms of your emotion, in terms of when someone break that, you wouldn't be so upset and angry if you don't have so fixed in that. Someone is very fixed in that, then it's absolute law and it's absolutely bad. Because you broke that, is absolutely bad. Whereas someone with that understanding of non-absolute, then yes, it's a broken law and there should be consequences of that, whatever, but not so much with anger and that sort of negative feeling because you don't believe it's absolutely bad. It's not absolutely bad, but it's something against the law that has been created by certain peoples, which are all kind of more or less agree even though not everyone agree, but more or less everyone says, okay, these are the people who are supposed to make the law. These are the people we voted for, who know those subjects and supposed to know the subject, and they're created on the basis of that, and everyone kind of accept that in a way, and that is all. Oh, yes, please.
Meditating on love and compassion when you're dying is absolutely pure or relatively.
Which one?
When you're dying and when you're meditating on the moon and on compassion.
Uh-huh.
Relative good thing or an absolute?
It's not absolute. Even that, the practice, the path itself is not absolute. The result itself is not absolute. You know, so everything is relative. You know, we can, yeah. So even that is not absolute. If we hold that absolute, again, we have grasping. And if we have grasping, then again, that create the problems. You know, compassion is something we want to achieve, we want to actualize. Wisdom, realizing emptiness, something we want to achieve, something. But if you see them as absolute, then you will have grasping to them. As long as you are grasping to them, then again, we wouldn't be able to let go of the grasping, and due to grasping, then the problem arises. And so, therefore, even that one, one try to see absolute, no, relative, nothing absolute. Okay, then do the dedications. 36. Gyawadi Nyoto Lama Sangye Dokyo Ne Do Wa Chi Chang Ma Le Ba Te Sa La Chancho Sancho Rinpoche Ma Ke Pa Na Ke Kyo Chi Ke Wa Nyan Pa Me Pa Yang Kong Le Kong Do Ke Wa Sho Jikten Kam Te Pen Te Ma Lu Pa Kang Le Chung E San Pe Yi Shi No Ka Ten Sung Me Ten Zen Ja So La So wa de so tu che lun du shu. Tu chu chang xin chang gen jia wei ten zhen zhong pe pe. Kun su to po ro zi. Sho sung ku wei le me tu chu. A da so du che nyu du nyu chen shu. So yeah, the only things we change this one instead of Shapten Show, New Jön Show. Nur Jön Show. Nur means swiftly or quickly, Jön means return. So that is if we make New Jön Show. Instead of Shapten Show, Shapten is a long life, and then New Jön Show, quickly return. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ciao.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye bye.
Jean-Paul!
Bonne nuit,
demain.
Campine.
Tu viens demain.
Oui,
Oh. En live ou bien pas live?
ben oui, si je traduis, c'est mieux que je sois avec vous quand même.
Ah,
Blessing screen.
oh,
My teachers, sister Roches, because I know some of you are not. You're going tomorrow morning.